Ladies and gentlemen, nerds and neckbeards. Welcome to another episode of Westworld. Wheneverly.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tana.
How's it going?
It's going good.
What are we going to talk about tonight?
Today we're going to talk about the 9th episode of Westworld. We're not up to the finale yet.
Nope.
We're getting there.
Although I have to say at the beginning
slow,
here,
but we're getting there.
We have seen all the episodes. So
we have.
So before you listen to us, go and watch all of the episodes. Like if you're interested in not
spoilers.
being full disclosure, I don't really remember some stuff. Like the first time and only time I ever watched the season finale was a long time ago.
Yes.
So this is the penultimate episode, and like I don't super remember what happens in the end, but I might spoil some stuff if you've never seen it. So
Tana's been known to spoil things.
I do. I'm a bit of a spoiler.
You are.
I live my life as a spoiler.
That's how you live your life? Okay.
What are we drinking tonight, my friend?
You know, I am back on keto.
Okay.
And lucky for me, I lost about 30 pounds.
Cheers, you look great.
Cheers to that.
But I always think you look so great.
Aw, Tana.
Oh, hi, buddy.
But so tonight, I'm drinking a keto-friendly drink, which is rum.
Yes.
Captain Morgan Private Stock, to be specific.
Quite fancy rum.
Spiced rum. And Coke Zero.
Ooh la la.
Which has no sugar, no carbs, no calories at all. Somehow, it just goes into your body and disappears.
Just kind of some magic sauce.
It's
right
probably not good for me. It's probably going to give me cancer. But let's be honest.
You look gorgeous.
It's fucking delicious. And I look gorgeous.
Yeah, in the meantime. And I raided your liquor cabinet and saw it was making eyes with me from across the room.
The way it went was Tana goes, "Can I drink anything that's in here?" Yeah, go for it.
Candy store eyes.
And of course, she went straight for the good stuff.
Top shelf, baby.
Top shelf. Well,
Angles Envy.
It's all on the top shelf.
It's actually quite high. And I'm not the tallest tall, so some tiptoes were required. But I am sipping on some Angles Envy Bourbon.
Fantastic.
It's so fucking, there are caramel notes and malty notes. There's like...
it's one of the smoothest bourbons I've ever drank.
Oh God, it's just delicious. And
it's actually one of the only ones that I can like drink by itself.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good. And while I would drink it neat, tonight I am having it on the rocks.
Yes.
You know.
In honor of Florida being hot.
In order of it being winter in Florida. So it's winter everywhere else in the world. But down here it was like, this year, Florida is going to hold winter on a Friday. Because it was like 80 degrees, 60 degrees.
It's been cold. Degrees. It's been cold the past 2 days here. But it's been good.
Cold.
Yeah, 60. Yeah. When I say cold,
everyone
I
else
60.
is like, we got 6.5 inches of snow last night. And we're like, oh God, I had to put on a long sleeve for a minute.
Typically, I don't ever wear jeans unless I am going to work.
Yeah.
And so...
The fancy work jeans?
Yeah, the fancy work jeans. Today, I went outside and was like, I'm going to wear jeans on an off day.
I'm going to wear some pants.
It was a bit chilly. Anyway...
All right,
let's get into this episode.
Episode 9, Westworld Season 2.
It's called Poof, Vanishing Point.
I was just going to say, Stump Dave, what is the title of today's episode?
Oh, come on.
You knew it.
I knew it. I knew it this time.
Check. Okay, so that's 1 point. You knew the title. Question 2 in Stump Dave.
See, I love this. We're already getting right into Stump Dave. Got to get it going.
I'm going to stump you. I've got a couple of questions for you that I'm not sure you're ready for.
Okay, let's hear it.
Question 2. What is a vanishing point?
Ooh. A vanishing point is obviously a point that disappears.
Ding. Correct.
Yeah.
There are 2 definitions that I want to bring to your attention.
Okay.
One is that one, a point at which receding parallel lines viewed in perspective appear to converge, so the coming together of things, right?
Oh, it's like when you draw perspective and you draw those 2 diagonal lines that eventually touch. That little point at which they touch is called a vanishing point. That's
right, which you already answered, and which I spend all of my days fucking drawing in comics all the time. And the second definition is a vanishing point is the point at which, and this is where it gets interesting for Westworld, the point at which something that has been growing smaller or increasingly faint disappears altogether. Now, Dave, Why do you think I would think that's interesting for this episode?
Well, I mean, it is at which everything starts to converge this episode. You're starting to believe things that you didn't believe, and then you're also believing things that you don't want to believe, all at the same time, all
coming together
at the vanishing point,
appearing to get smaller and smaller. Now, last episode was Kiksuya, and it was all about our Lakota friend, the ahi tuna, right?
Yes.
And it focused on one character. In this episode,
just a bunch of tuna,
but so good. But it was such a good episode. I really enjoyed it. Did you enjoy this episode? Just a plus minus.
I think in terms of overall Westworld episodes, I think it was on the plus side.
Okay.
But it definitely wasn't my holy shit, this is Westworld episode, right? I think it was episode 3 or 4.
Okay.
No, definitely not 3. 3 was Shogun World.
Yep. I was like, did you secretly like Shogun World this whole time? And I've been talking shit about it in literally every episode.
No, it was I think it was episode 4. It was right after Shogun World.
Yep.
That episode was like,
What about
every
that
time
episode?
I leave, they pull me back in.
Was that the one where Ford reappears? And what was that one?
I don't remember. I honestly just remember.
I loved one of them.
I just remembered that it was like, I just remember us sitting down talking about Shogun World being like, I'm fucking pissed.
Oh, and then they got us back on the train.
And then they got us back on the train.
Yep, correct. This one, I think, in the way that Kiksuya was about Ghost Nation guy, this one was very much about William and sort of his craziness. We open with him narrating things, right? Like we go right into this. There's this thing in me. Even I didn't see it at first. This stain, and he's sort of like narrating his own life in a way.
What's great is we get this monologue twice.
Yes, we continue to come back to these things. In this episode was a William episode.
Yes,
and it had so much repetition, and repetition through the same language through different characters. He says something at some point, then Emily says it. Is this real? Are you real? Then his wife says it. Is this real? Are you real? And the reader, the viewer. I'm used to thinking of things always in terms of readers.
Yep.
The viewer is left with this idea, this question, this pervasive question of what is real, right? Like that's what we're being asked to interrogate throughout this entire episode. But this is a very William-centric episode, right? It's the deepest dive we've ever gone into his character. And we see a lot of those, like, you know how you have like the coming next week, whatever scenes the trailers. A lot of the stuff from the trailers, him running in slow motion up the stairs, walking down the long corridor at a hotel. A lot of that imagery was in this episode. Like that's where a lot of the imagery comes from. So in a lot of ways, as a penultimate episode, very big stuff. We're going to talk about how successful or interesting they were able to do it.
Let's dive right in.
Okay. It's a dinner party. The rich wife, it's some benefactor benefit.
Yep, I think
they're cheering William for something.
Yep,
philanthropy.
Donating to the charity.
That's right.
Of his daughter, Emily's charity.
Yep. And he's saying, I didn't see it at first. Then one day it was there, this stain, but you always saw it. You know, like that's, saw it. You saw that's right the through. Scene. Yep. We think it's the real world. It's a room filled with rich folks. Do you know, Stump Dave, what are the people in the room discussing?
Well, that one guy is discussing books that they didn't read as a child, or that the rich people didn't read it as a child, but he remembers that William came from humble beginnings and had to actually read things.
And do you know what he says? Do you know what the subject is? It is the conqueror, Alexander the Great. And he says he weeps to see that there were no more worlds to be conquered. And we focus on William.
That's right. He said he was sad because if there were infinite worlds, he had not become a lord of a single one.
And this is a brilliant line. They're paying a lot of attention to the language of the show, which is one of the things I love most about the show.
Yeah.
William says, "That's a corruption, Jack." And they start talking about Plutarch, who is the writer of this Alexander the Great quote or whatever. And he's saying, he doesn't actually, they start talking about Alexander the Great. That's a corruption, Jack. And he's like, Alexander the Great never said that. And he starts like saying, whatever the true thing is. And this is when his rich friend is like, oh, I forgot you were poor and you actually paid attention in school. And then his wife comes up and she's like, and she quotes something else from Plutarch and is like, I'm rich and I also paid attention. And they're establishing this dynamic between the two of them, between William and his wife, where she's sort of like the intellectual equal of him.
Yep.
And they both are like care about this this esoteric stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how well they seem as a team, right?
Because they're seen as a team.
Because from there, it goes completely the opposite direction.
Yep.
It's very much what she says, which is everyone's pretending, everyone is fake.
Yes.
And then you're the best faker of them all.
Yes.
And so this was a really...
I thought you were real, but you're just the best at faking it.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, and so there's this fascinating dynamic between William and his wife. We're meeting his wife for the first time. Oh, I have to make a correction.
Okay.
In our last episode, I called William's wife Logan's mother, and it's Logan's sister.
Yeah,
so it's Logan's sister that's married to William, and like, we're a drinking podcast. This drink looks like nothing to me.
This drink looks like nothing.
Angels Envy is so fucking good. Okay. But I have more questions. Stump Dave. Stump Dave.
Stumpin' Dave.
Who is
Ask one question
Plutarch?
that I don't know the answer to.
Tell me everything you know about Plutarch.
Ooh. Is he who they named the planet, not planet, Pluto after?
Perhaps. Actually, I don't know.
Stumpin'
Because there's a
Tana.
Plato.
This is my new technique for Stump Dave. It's when I don't know a question, the answer, I'm gonna ask a question back and see if you answer a question. That's my new strategy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh shit. I do know that they called Plato as a nickname because he was as broad as a plank, which is Plato anyway. And he was a wrestler.
And he has a closet that like buys all your clothes back from you and
Lucius
like that.
Mestrius Plutarchus is a Greek biographer and an essayist who died in Delphi, the Oracle of Delphi. He lived from 45 AD to 127 AD. Do you know how old that makes him? How old?
Repeat the numbers again.
45 AD
Yep.
to 127 AD. 45 to 127 AD. He's a Greek philosopher, and biographer.
Wow, he's old.
Yeah,
well,
he did. He lived
he's
a long
like
time.
80. He's like 80 years old.
Yeah, 82 is how
yeah.
that math worked out for me. Yeah, and I think it's interesting that they are arguing over Plutarch. A quick Googling told me that he strongly defended the freedom of the will and immortality of the soul. One of the earliest philosophers to really commit that kind of idea to paper.
So that is definitely interesting because
Yes.
it's the project, right?
That's the whole fucking theme, right?
Yep,
Like, even these little shitty conversations that they're having that are sort of like just, like that character building ties back. Plutarch talked about the immortality of the soul. And who are the two people paying attention to it? William and his wife, who goes on to commit suicide when she finds out about the dual life that William is leading.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. There's so many big questions. Does he fucking kill his daughter? Did he kill his daughter in real life? We're going to get there.
Yeah.
Do you think he did?
I think,
Do you think he killed the real Emily?
Without spoilers,
We can spoil everything. We already said at the beginning, spoilers, yeah.
So, I mean,
does he kill his kid?
knowing what I remember about the extra bonus scene at the end of the next one, it's so hard to say.
Oh, it's so hard to say.
It's so hard to say. I think he thinks he killed his daughter.
Yeah.
That's what I will say, definitely.
Okay.
I think at first he's like, fuck you, Ford.
Yep.
Machine guns.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Kills everyone. Then he finds the fucking
in
profile
her
in her hand. And I think it's at that moment he's like, did I just kill my daughter? I just killed my daughter. What the fuck?
His reason for thinking she was fake was that he said, too bad, Ford. I never shared my ID card with anybody. But by the end of the episode, we see that, there's like that revelatory scene that we'll talk about in detail. But basically, he thinks his wife is passed out asleep.
Right. Yep.
And he sort of does this confession thing. And he also put the card into the book in front of her. She's faking being asleep. So she sees him put the card in the book. So it is entirely plausible, if those memories are real, if that isn't some reconstructed memory, if that actually happened, which I think we're supposed to believe it did.
Yes.
Then the wife saw him put the card there, finds the card, and leaves it for Emily in that music box.
Yep.
So at least part of this is coming back to something that happened in real life. Yes. I think real life Emily showed up and did this. Did he really kill her?
I think he believes he did.
Yeah.
Right?
And we, as the viewer, are not supposed to know.
I think as the viewer, we're confused, right? Because and I think they did this purposely, right? Because after the mind fuck that was season 1, right? Because no one knew what was coming.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I think after that mind fuck, everyone is like, I think everyone's like kind of on the lookout for mind fucks, right? They're like, all right, they're going to mind fuck us here somewhere. Something's going to get us.
Yep. And I think that we're paying such close attention as viewers. Like there's something so rewarding about being able to peel back the layers and sort of see it,
Right.
One of the things that is a layer for sure is this repetition, right? Is this real? So the opening scene is that little party. And where they talk about Plutarch. Plutarch is important because he was Alexander the Great's biographer. So they're talking about Plutarch's work, right? But they say, is this real? Emily says, is this real? Are you real? That question comes back again and again. The wife says it, that night when William is sitting on her bed. Is this real? Are you real? Tell me something real.
Tell me one true thing.
Yes, so we start seeing him question his existence from the beginning. That sort of sets up the theme of the episode.
And he's been doing this. He's been touching his arm.
Yeah, he starts scratching his arm by the end of the episode.
Well, he's been doing it the whole season.
He has. That's right. Yeah. And so we cut from here, from his real world fancy party to being in the game. Dying William wakes up. He's leaning against the tree. Emily is there in front of him. We see, he's like, we're at a rally point. There's
med packs, there's water bottles,
and he's like, well, what is this? Is this real or not real? That's Emily's voice. Is this real or no? He says, is this real or not real to Emily? And they start talking about mom and the ballerina box. And he is really like, you're not my daughter. Like, this is too convenient. You're Ford.
Yeah.
Like,
how did you find me? There's no way.
This place is huge, he says.
Yeah, he says, even if you were looking for someone, you're not going to guarantee to find someone. You just happen to find me?
Yep.
No way.
Yeah. Too many coincidences. There's no coincidences. She starts talking about maybe it's fate. And he's like, there's no such thing as fate. And so he's interrogating this thing. I believe that him waking up against the tree is the beginning of his loop. That he has played that loop a dozen times, and that loop involves his flashbacks to the hotel. Okay. Now I'm going to take a little pause. The idea is to break down the episode for sure. But do you remember Bernard and Dolores, and how before Bernard became a real boy, Dolores was in a secret, what did they call it?
The cradle.
The cradle.
We learned this about in the cradle in the previous episode, or was it one episode or 2 episodes ago, where Bernard goes into the cradle and he learns that before they ever put his mind into a host body, they did thousands and thousands and thousands of tests and trials inside this virtual environment which they call the cradle. And we find out in this episode, the forge is like the cradle, except not with hosts' minds, it's with the guests' minds. Yep.
And that he was being interrogated or crafted by Dolores, who had verbatim eidetic memory of everything he actually said. There's that scene where she says, no, he didn't give me the option. He never questioned whether or not it was his right to end my life. There was never a question of agency or something. Like, she is to the letter very incisive. I would like to say perhaps that is what is happening with William. Maybe William is in the forge. So what we're seeing is a window.
You're suggesting that there's no way this is, quote unquote, a physical environment.
You're saying this started there.
It could have started, but when he opens his eyes, because he goes from blackout, so when he's opening his eyes, it could literally be anything.
Yes.
You're saying that
I'm trying to try to track it. I'm trying to.
That is
if there's a schism.
The opening of a virtual world in which we are now seeing the virtual world play out.
Where the AI is trying to test him again and again and again. And I think that there are certain moments. There's a moment when he's at that party, so he's talking about what's real and what's not. Mm-hmm. Imagine it as William being trapped inside the Delos project. Delos is trying to understand, the Delos project, the AI is trying to understand William.
Yep.
And so they've got him in this loop, right? Frozen in time in this loop, and he plays it the same way every single fucking time. Mm-hmm. But it's phase space. All of the things are happening at once. There's a moment where he sees Dolores delivering drinks in that fancy hotel, but then it's
Dolores.
just
it turns to Sookie Stackhouse.
It turns to Sookie Stackhouse.
It definitely was that same actress.
Was it?
I'm
She's
just
fallen
saying.
from grace.
I mean,
we're gonna have to judges say. I don't think it was.
No? Okay. Well, okay.
I'm saying Sookie Stackhouse a lot on our podcast.
I mean, do I?
We do, yeah. She comes up a bit. But
that gap teeth just.
But what if, I mean, she's cute as heck. What if it is phase space? What if this is like him remembering, are they giving us these little breadcrumbs throughout the episode?
Maybe. I like it. I like the theory. I like where we're going with it. Yeah. I think it's entirely possible. I don't think we're going to find out till season 3.
God, do we know anything about season 3? Have we heard anything?
The only thing I know is that the set burned down.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Fuck. Rip. Sorry, California. And also all of California. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
This drink
is for California.
All right. Let's go back into our escapist fantasy. We go... So...
Those are my
there's the talk of the mom in the ballerina box. This is the scene 1, scene 2. It's not too late for us, says Emily to the dad. Enter Dolores and Evil Teddy, and they have this interaction with Ghost Nation.
Oh man, Evil Teddy this episode.
Right? The Valley Beyond is not meant for you. It's a bloodbath. Teddy doesn't murder Ghost Nation's number 2 Lieutenant General guy, even though Dolores had commanded him to do it.
Make sure there's no one survives. Well, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
She says this thing to Teddy, and it made me think. She says, "It's just you and I, Teddy.
Yeah.
Go make sure no one else survived." Right? Yeah. Something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she also is subtly commanding him to kill her own men as well. Oh. It's just you and I, Teddy. Make sure no one survived. And she doesn't say make sure they didn't get away or anything like that.
Yeah.
She says make sure no one survived.
What is this? Like, what is the purpose of Dolores in this episode?
I don't know.
Or in this whole, arc?
This whole Dolores arc in general has been kind of like, I just don't kind of care anymore.
What's the point of it? What's the point of this particular... Drill down on this particular scene.
Okay.
What is the point of this particular bloodbath?
So, at some level, this is, I think, just to close, and I think it's just to close the thread and to answer the question of, is Dolores working with the Ghost Nation? I think that's really what this is all about. And I mean, because
proving that, you guys, she's like, not everybody gets to go to the Valley Beyond. Yeah, don't stand in my way or whatever.
I think this is also her way. This is the show writers, it's Lisa and Jonathan's way of telling us, there are different levels of consciousness going on in this park, right? We learned all about Ahi Tuna and about how his generation and creation of consciousness in himself with the maze, right? He's the one who kind of not created the maze, but he took the maze and started spreading it
everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is a separate kind of development, right?
Yep.
And I think this parallels real life. I mean, there are tribes in Africa that developed, their own customs and own things very differently to the monarchies and the Western civilization, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I'm not a fan necessarily of where Dolores is going.
I don't understand what the purpose is of her as like Deathbringer. I just don't get it, really. But I mean, I guess there has to be a villain, right? I feel like they didn't know what they were doing with this character, and she kind of got away.
Yeah, but even this season, the villain to me is still Delos, right? The corporation, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not like, the corporation is doing this for the greater good. And like season 1, very much so was like the corporation and the people who run this are evil. Dolores is good.
Yep.
Right? And now it's kind of like the corporation is evil. Dolores is. You thought she was doing this for the good, but now you're like
she's kind of a shitbag.
She's kind of the Deathbringer.
Yep.
And then there's these Native American type Lakota Indian guys who are like, we just want
do-gooders go into the Valley Beyond.
We just want to go and live in the new world.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
And sort of fulfill that promise. I think,
which is also a little ironic now that I say it out loud. And the reason why I say that is because, Western European civilization, colonialism,
colonization,
developed the New World, which was taken away from all the Native Americans, and now the Native Americans are like, let's go conquer this new world, or let's go to this new world.
I don't know. That's a very let's go to a better place.
That's a really interesting thing that I just thought of. Like, they keep referencing a new world, and it's America was the new world, and all of your people got slaughtered and put on reservations. And
I think Rachel Evan Hansen, what's her whole name? Rachel
Evan Woods.
Evan Woods.
She plays Dolores, by the way. For those of you who don't know.
I think she does a superb job. I think that her acting, her stoicism, the stuff that I loved about her characterization of Dolores in the first season, this sort of like way that she'll tilt her head and sort of like let her eyes go fuzzy, or, kind of the small movements, the mechanical movements are all there in her performance. And so I think she's doing a fantastic job performing a character whose writing got away from the writers. I just don't see what her function is.
Yeah.
Teddy, I think, so Teddy, we are supposed to see Teddy resisting his evil programming.
Right.
Like
his
Dolores.
His cornerstone is bringing him back.
Yep.
Right.
But he's he doesn't murder everyone. He lets the guy go deliberately. We see him sort of like not delay an order, but like refuse to do the thing he was ordered to do, which isn't the first time. So I think maybe that's what we're supposed to get out of that, and their sort of like fractured relationship later in the episode. We're just going to skip around here. He fucking in the final scene commits suicide.
Yeah.
And in this sort of like robot emotional, in the ramshackle house.
It's very interesting because I was also reminded of the 3 laws of robotics, right? I forget the guy who created them.
Isaac Asimov.
Yes, Asimov. Thank you. Asimov's 3 rules.
Yep. Which are? Do you know what they are?
You can't harm a human being.
That's right.
You can't disobey a human being's order unless it's to harm another human being.
That's right.
And I forget what the third one
God damn. If only we had Google.
If only we had... Watch this. Wait. You guys want to see something cool? Hey, Google. What are the 3 laws of Asimov?
On the website auburn.edu, they say, a robot must obey orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Do you want a little more context?
Holy crap, that's great.
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
God, we live in the future.
That's all.
Thanks, Google. Oh my God. This is like science fiction bullshit, my dude.
Yeah. But anyway, so he's kind of following those laws because he gets his gun out and ready, and he's loading it.
There's the whole.
And Dolores comes up and says, like, Dolores almost like gets her gun ready, like, you're not gonna hurt me, Teddy.
Her eye goes up a little bit. It's that subtle acting she does.
And Teddy goes, no, Dolores. I could never hurt you.
But they go back
I'll defend you until the day I die.
He remembers the day that he first came online in that basement.
It was always you, Dolores.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you and looking, wondering if you were cold.
Yeah. Oh, poor Teddy. Sweet baby.
I mean, she was also naked, so in that first scene, I mean, like, I'm just saying.
We've seen a lot of naked robots.
Like,
they tactfully framed the shot, so you see only her face, none of the nudie bits. Although we have seen plenty of robot nudie bits.
That's right.
And so, but you get this Teddy, and they both look like brand new baby robots. Right?
Yes,
they do. The special effects in the show are fantastic.
They put baby oil all over them, so they're shiny and stuff. Imagine the prep for that scene. It's just all right. Do you want to rub the baby oil on yourself, or should we get someone for that?
I don't know that they rub baby oil on me.
Let me ask you, Tana, if you were being shot in that scene, would you want to rub the baby oil on yourself, or would you want to have a fluffer come in and rub the baby oil on you?
Whose job is it to be the baby oil fluffer?
Dude, there's someone out there who wants to be in show business bad enough that they're like,
Teddy's baby oil fluffer.
I will be.
That's on the resume.
That's on the resume.
That's there. Right. Yep. Season whatever.
So,
Season
can you tell me what kind of
9.
special effects you've done? Well, you see, I worked on Westworld. Oh, you worked on Westworld. That's great. It's a huge, very popular show. What did your job do exactly? Well, I was in charge of, rubbing, the actors down. Oh, baby rubbing oil. The actors down. That's interesting. What did you rub them down with? Oh, just a little baby oil.
I'm a professional baby oiler. Oh, yep. I feel like, maybe there is a spot in Hollywood for me, Dave.
Yeah. Is that your job? That's your job. That's your job. The professional baby oil rubber.
Should the need arise, I shall.
All right, so all you people who are in show business, because people in show business are definitely listening to us. Get at Tana Ford.
Westeros Wheneverly.
Yeah. At gmail.com. Yeah.
You changed me, he says in that scene. You made me a monster. And he's like, I can't live my life as this monster you made me. And he does the whole cowboy hat down. You can't see his face. Gun. Dolores is like, is this bitch about to shoot me? Yeah. You can't hurt me. Right? You can't. And he's like, no, you're my cornerstone. And he puts the gun to his head, Dave. In an exact mirror image to a scene we haven't yet talked about where Man in Black puts his... So, we have all these parallels to robots and the Man in Black. Mm-hmm. Except, unlike the Man in Black in the previous scene, who doesn't pull the trigger, Teddy actually fucking pulls the trigger. And I have to say, what's the name of the guy that plays Teddy? Do you know his name? No. Rip.
Hey, Google. Who plays Teddy in Westworld?
It's our third host.
Marsden has recently played the character of
James Marsden.
There you go. Look at this fucking...
Goddamn.
No, thank you.
No problem.
Goddamn, James Marsden. He does a great job.
Does a great job.
He does a great job.
We're going to have to credit Google.
I know.
In our
hey, Google.
podcast.
Thanks so much for being a part of our podcast. This is our the third man.
The third man.
Good God. Let's get back to trying to do it chronologically. We just did the final scene.
We just skipped right to the finale.
Yeah, and now we're done. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, all right. See you later. 33 minutes.
Analysis.
That's pretty good.
Bernard and the Valkyrie. Clementine has been upgraded to have Maeve's telepathic mesh net ability.
Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, and has all the hosts violently murder each other because why? And then they're gonna release her into the population.
I think this is. I'm assuming this is a tactic to stop them from attacking us.
So she's just gonna
just go crazy. But
turn Clem into a murder monster and release her and then have all the hosts kill each other?
Yeah, I think they're gonna.
That's the plan?
They're gonna ride behind her in a blaze
plan.
of glory. That's the plan, They're gonna use her as a Trojan horse. I mean, it's a Trojan horse. That's what it is, right? It's you go out there and go infect all the hosts and make them turn on each other, make them kill each other so we don't have to do it.
Yeah, Clem looks super
it's
like a robot, like
the
a
plot of the Kingsman.
We could talk about Kingsman. I have opinions. Let's move on.
Oh.
Emily and William.
She said that.
We go from Bernard and Valkyrie to Emily and William. the suspicious testing, fate. Do you want this to all be about control? You know, he doesn't believe that this is his real daughter, and we don't know if it's his real daughter. This could have happened in real life or not. Is it all about control? She asks her dad. No. So what's his angle? She's like, it's all about control for you, this Delos project. And he goes, the daughter I know would never want part of this project. She would be outraged, appalled, disgusted to know that this is what we were doing. Sorry, Ford, you're not tricking me.
Yeah, this is him in denial.
Yep. And
or paranoia. I mean,
yes. And so it could be paranoia.
Could be paranoia.
This could be a real human man looking at his human daughter who has found out his secret. And she's like, and he says, what's your angle? And she says, I want in.
I want in.
We cut from there to the fancy dinner party, which again could be part of the Matrix, or could be a real thing, or it could be a blend of the two.
Yep.
Save me, says William. The mom is drunk. Join me for a nightcap back at home. I'll take care of drunk mom.
Yep.
I'll see you there. They walk down that long hallway, that iconic, scene that we've, he's the man in black walking down the long hallway. It's momentous. We have been building visually up to this moment. What's about to happen in this scene? Oh my God. I, as a viewer, am holding my breath. We get to see where, like the title of the episode, where this particular vanishing point leads. We've been going to it all fucking season. It's been narrowing and narrowing and narrowing, and we're almost at the end of the hall. What do we see?
I think we see Ford sitting at a bar.
Yep. William breaths up. McCallum, 18.
Neat.
Yeah, that's right. Orders it.
And there's Ford sitting next to him.
Next to him. In real life. I think this happened in real life.
I think this... Well, yeah, probably.
Ford says, philanthropy suits you. You come from humble beginnings, after all.
What is Oz doing with that? It's a wizard.
Such a good line. Oh, it's such a good line.
You can tell
laughs.
There's love for these two characters.
Yeah, like
right?
this is the end. This is the cornerstone, right? Something about Ford and what Ford was able to do, or what Arnold and Ford were able to do to unlock Billy, who would become the Man in Black, is his cornerstone. That's his adversary, right? It's always about Ford for him. He's focused on him so much. He's obsessed with Ford. And so here Ford is. He laughs. I merely came to pay my respects. Come on, Robert. You've had many feelings about me over the years.
None of them are respect.
Respect isn't one of them.
Respect isn't one of them.
You've achieved extraordinary things. Ask any man in this room, even those who don't know about your little project. That's right. Oh, so this is the vanishing point then. This is where it's all been leading. This exchange. What does he say? Delos, we have an agreement, Robert. Delos stays out of your little stories and you stay out of the valley. And then Ford says, I didn't break our agreement. Your project did. What the hell are you talking about? When was the last time you took a good look at your creation? Or what it's been learning about its subjects? And then Ford kind of leans back and says, it was self-knowledge that drew you to the park in the first place. Be careful what you wish for. And then he slides the card across the table.
Yep.
And he says, as a self-portrait, you may find it's not very flattering. But then there's this moment that kind of hangs in the air. And then the drunk wife, smashes a glass, is laughing in the other room, whatever. And enough games, Robert. Good night. And William sort of leaves to collect his wife, but takes this chip, but doesn't that's it. It's sort of conversation interrupted.
But Ford has one last word to say as William walks away.
Yes.
And I think it's not yet.
No, William. I think perhaps
one more game.
That's right. Oh, enough games, Robert. No, I think one more. Oh. So what is this, Dave? Unpack that shit for me.
What is
Angles Envy and you
Ford,
unpack it.
What is Ford's game? I mean, if your theory is true that this is a virtual world and Ford is maybe hacked himself into it just like he did in the Cradle.
Yeah. So let's say AI, right? Like the whole thing is about artificial intelligence.
So let's say the Forge, the Valley, has become self-aware and is running these simulations and figuring out and learning about its subjects, including its creator.
Yes, it's curious about its creator. It's curious about William. It's watching William. Mm-hmm. The Delos Project is now self-aware, and it is watching William. And Ford has noticed that it's watching William, or that it's doing things it shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Because Ford has been like working on his little, his stories and like doing
Ford
his thing.
Ford hasn't just been working on his little stories, right? So there is more to this. Because Ford crack the code with Bernard? Like he got Delos to work by recreating Arnold in Bernard, but he just did it. He did it because he enlisted the AI to do it for him. Right.
He had Dolores make Bernard. Mm-hmm. He worked with Dolores, but she did most of the work, remembering what Arnold was like, and then put Arnold into Bernard. And then Bernard, who is a creation of Dolores and I don't know, the AI or whatever, or Dolores and Ford, then works with Ford, and Bernard then creates more of the new programming that goes into the AI and all of the hosts.
Yeah, but do you think that then filters back into the Valley, which then becomes self-aware? Is that what you're trying to?
I don't know, because a lot of this stuff is going to be.
I feel like they're almost two separate things, right? They said, and if we take Ford for telling the truth, which I'm not necessarily saying that we should, but I don't see a reason why that he's ever lied to us. I mean, he's been a sneaky fucking bastard, right? But everything he always says is always very philosophically, I am God type. And so when he says that comment, I'm not the one who broke the agreement, or I'm not the one who fired the first shot.
Yeah.
I think he may be.
What is he referencing?
What
is he talking about?
Yes, that's.
And he's like, when was the last time you looked at your little project? Took a look at your creation?
Yeah. Is
he talking about Jim Delos? Is he talking about?
I think it's meant for us to believe that he's talking about Jim Delos.
Yeah. And maybe the AI more broadly. And I understand that I'm getting too granular here, that there's a surface story that's also interesting, and on a scene by scene level, it's there's action and there's adventure and it's interesting and whatever, but I'm I'm trying to cut to the bone really quick.
Yeah.
And I think some of this stuff is answered in the next episode, which we've seen but don't remember very well.
Correct.
But that we are going to watch together, which is also very exciting.
Yes, we are.
We don't often watch things together.
No,
we just
don't.
sort of watch them separately and then talk about them together.
Yep.
But this time we are going out with a bang. The crescendo
bang.
is going to be us watching the shit together.
That's right.
And hopefully figuring some of this shit out. I don't know. So they have so this is the vanishing point. They have this moment. Ford gives him this very critical chip that shows all of the shit that he's ever done in the park, that William has ever done in the park. That is the source, eventually, of his wife's suicide, that his daughter finds, that maybe she was showing to him when he murdered his kid. Mm-hmm. I don't know that that's actually what happened. It could have been a computer simulation or something. But
there's that scene that she goes, "Let me show you." She reaches into her back, which is where her gun is, or her father's gun is.
Yeah.
Right? Which this is a very cop scene, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Some guy is reaching into his pocket, saying, "Let me show you this."
Yep.
There could be a weapon there, right? Yep. No, don't do that,
Yep, and he's already murdered. And she's like, those were humans, Dad.
Yeah, he's already murdered a whole bunch of what we're supposed to believe are real human guards, which, by the way, a very interesting thing is they do scan him.
Yep.
Right? And I think you're meant to see that purposefully as no, he's not a host.
Yep. But
we know that Bernard can pass as human.
Yep. And also, if it, yes, Oh, see, I just assumed it was all happening in the Matrix. But you're saying if it happened in real life, if this is based on a real life event, I think
we're meant to believe that it happened in real life,
and that they were. Do you think they were really humans, or do you think they were like Ford created hosts, like he believes?
I don't know.
We're not supposed to know. There's too many questions. We can drill down on it. I think we have smart enough minds where we can do it. I believe in us, David.
No, I'm very stumbleable.
We're about halfway through the episode.
Okay.
We cut to Bernard, which has Ford the ghost program in him, and Maeve. Bernard shows up outside Maeve's door. She scans him. She gets down.
This is after Bernard tries to leave, and Ford's like, no. We have one more thing to do, sir.
That's right. And then he finds closet case Becky.
Yep.
And Ford is like, she's gonna
betray you. She's a human.
Don't trust her.
She will always side with her likeness, not what the difference.
Yep. There's only two things. He does this whole philosophical thing about animals again.
Yeah.
They're either animals that run away from humans because they know humans will kill them, or they're tamed, softened, perversions of their wild selves. Yeah. And there's only the two, Bernard. You can see that. But Bernard chooses to trust her. Becky says, "What did you find out?" He says that they're doing what they are doing to James Delos, they're doing to everyone who visits the park. And Becky's like mind blown about it. She goes like,
holy shit.
Yeah. I think this is another sample of the free will theme that they're going on. So they've woven Plutarch and this sort of like, what is the human spirit? What is choice? What is it to be alive? Which is one of the overarching themes of the series. And this scene is a sample of that. We have Bernard pushing back against Ford and choosing his own path, choosing to trust the human, to tell her the truth, right? And I think it sort of establishes Bernard as an individual. Maybe.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, there's definitely the scene where that's happening and he sits down in the Jeep. He cuts his arm open and he's like, I'm not going to be your puppet anymore, Ford. I am going to do free will. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yep. They're in the Humvee and Becky is like, she goes to get the ammo and Ghost Ford is in Bernard and telling him she's going to betray you.
Kill her.
And then he does this thing, where like, he's like, she doesn't have to feel anything or it doesn't have to hurt. And the camera pans down. It's an extreme angle. Yeah, from like the ground looking up at Bernard. And it slides down his body to show that he's holding a gun he didn't know he had. So you feel crazy and his hand shakes a little bit.
Yep.
And like he's fighting with himself. This actor is also amazing. I wish that we knew all of the... Don't ask Google. Don't ask Google. She's coming too much. But whoever that guy is amazing. But yeah, so like he loses it, throws a gun, zip ties himself to the wheel, plugs into the fucking Matrix, and then Becky shows up and he abandons her. Well, he drives off without her. She's like, "Were you gonna hurt me?"
Yeah, Becky shows up and is like, "What's going on here?" And she's like, "I had a patch of glitch." And he sees the zip tie. And,
he's like a fucking drug addict.
Yeah, I had a patch of glitch.
He had to shoot up to the mesh network.
I had to plug into the mesh network. Oh, I gotta get my fix.
Mm-hmm.
But she sees the zip tie, and like you said, she says, "Were you gonna hurt me?"
Yeah. What does he throw to her? What's the white thing?
See, at first, my first reaction was, "Oh, it's a tracking device, right? It's a beacon."
Yeah.
But what you said makes a little bit more sense.
Is it
right?
Abernathy?
It might be all Abernathy because I don't think anyone has it yet, right?
I thought they got it. I don't fucking remember. We are so good. I see why people come to us for the deep analysis.
We definitely
of the
know
show.
what's going on. Yeah.
Yep. So she throws some white circle at her.
He throws it at her and says, "QA will be around shortly to get you." That's why my thought was, "Oh, it must be a tracking."
Right. Maybe it is.
But it just falls to the ground. And she just says, "Fuck you, Bernard," and he drives away. And she turns around. She never picks it up.
So it can't be Abernathy.
I don't think it's Abernathy.
And it doesn't look like the egg or whatever.
No, it didn't look like
We're
the egg.
rusty, my dude.
There's like a flat disc, you know.
Yeah.
My first thought just went to like, GPS tracker type deal,
Yeah. Press this and somebody will come and get you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Man in Black and Emily is the next scene. Do you want in? The daughter I know would never want in. She'd be appalled. Yep. But she keeps pressing him, and she's like, "Well, how did you know? How would you know how to make this? I don't understand how you could do it. How could you track everyone?"
Oh, she's like, okay, I get the biological chemical part that we get, but you'd have to have an intimate scan of their every decision, their cognition, every decision in the park at all times. How do you do that? And he just points to his hat, and she takes it off.
It's such a good reveal.
What the fuck? You've been scanning their brains since they've been here? What the fuck? What's going on?
It's so good. At first, we weren't sure what we'd need. So we recorded everything. Yep. Oh, it's so good. It doesn't matter, Dave. It doesn't matter if you pick the black hat or the white hat. It doesn't fucking matter. Right. They're always watching you.
Always. Well, what's freaky to me, right, which lends me to believe more that she was a host, right?
Yeah,
Throughout this episode,
it could be the AI interrogating its creator.
Right. And like, the whole time I'm going back and forth. No, she's real. No, she's a host. No, she's real. No, she's a host.
Yep.
But she puts the hat back on. Right?
Yeah.
After it's revealed that this thing is like recording your every move.
Yeah.
Right? Do you put the hat back on?
That's a good catch. What do you if I find out that there's a fucking head tracker, man, I'd throw that shit away.
Right, exactly. I mean, let's be fair. We all have cell phones. And they're tracking everything that we do.
Everything we do and say and everything.
And we put that shit back in our pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
In reality, it's
so maybe human nature is like... Maybe we all put the hat back on.
Yeah, fuck it.
They know this much about me already.
Yeah. They already know I got a small penis. What else do they need to know in reality?
And the hat goes back on. Oh, yep. And but then they make it about the mom. They keep coming back to this cornerstone event.
Yes.
And she says, so this is all, he says, so this is all about your mother. You want to bring her back. No.
This is very reminiscent of Bernard's cornerstone because it always comes back to his kid.
Yeah.
It's always come back to his kid until finally he's able to turn it off.
Yeah.
Which was a couple episodes ago. But anyway,
there's this love connection. The theme is about everybody that's tied together by love. Maeve to her daughter, and Teddy tragedy. To Dolores.
It's not just love. Yes. It's tragedy.
And love, yeah.
There's a great line earlier in the season that says something like, Arnold found out that, the key is in sorrow or in misery or something along those lines.
I wish we had a hookup because I think I have that on my... voice memos where he it doesn't matter now, but he does realize that the key, the cornerstone to unlocking the top tier of the pyramid of consciousness wasn't just love, it was suffering.
Suffering, that's what it was. Suffering.
Yeah. Oh, and so we definitely see the man in black and Emily suffering. They keep coming back to the mother's suicide. What exactly do you do in the park? So we cut from here to the wife. Sorry, am I getting a little bit quiet? What exactly do you do in the park? Logan told me, but I don't believe him. This is the wife talking to the man in black.
Yep.
It establishes that before she views the info card, she doesn't know all the rape and murder and gore and violence.
It's time for your yearly pilgrimage, isn't it?
Yeah, I can feel the anger in you.
Yeah.
And so it's that
what
night.
What it is you do there.
Yeah.
I used to think that the things Logan used to tell me were just stories, but he was right.
Yeah. And this thing, when I first met you, they talk about how Billy, she calls him Billy. Oh, but you hate it when I call you that.
I can always tell when you're getting angry.
Yeah, it's time for your yearly pilgrimage. I thought when I first met you in your frumpy suit, oh, wow, he's the real thing. He's the only one here that's not faking it. But it turns out you're the only one any good at faking it. You're a virus. First my brother, then my father, and now it's me. And this Emily. Emily just shows up at that moment where she's calling him a fucking virus.
Yep.
And they threaten to return her to rehab.
Well, Emily does.
Yep.
It never comes out of his mouth.
Yep.
Right?
Mom's last words to Emily are, look at me. Your father doesn't love you. I love you. Yep. He doesn't love me either. But I love you. I do. I tried, Emily. Like, those are the last words to her. So it's believable that if Emily is a real human person, at least in part, that there would be, like, a desire for her to, like, understand and undo. Yeah. Right? Because this is the night where the two of them, William and Emily,
and
conspire.
I'm sure for the longest time, Emily felt kind of responsible, right? Like, without knowing the whole conversation that happened beforehand, like right before she reads the profile and the one truth and all that stuff. If I'm Emily, right, I'm telling my mom, you're going to rehab and you're not, you have a problem, you need to go get fixed. And then she kills herself.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yep.
It's my fault.
I thought one of the interesting things about they pay really close attention to the language in the show, and I love that.
Yeah.
When the mom hears that she's going to be sent to rehab, she reacts like a host would react if it knew it was going to be trapped forever, right? Yeah. Like there's this sort of recognizable animal fear. No, I can't go back there. They think I'm crazy there. Nobody listens to me. Like, it's not real. It doesn't seem real. And she goes into full panic mode about it. In a way that's totally understandable. What's a human and what's a robot? Are you real? Is this real? Tell me the truth. Later in the bed that night, it goes to her, William is sitting on the end of the bed. Is this real? She says to him, are you real? Yeah. Tell me the truth. Question. Is this fidelity? Is this the AI trying to get fidelity on him?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility, right? Replay the same scene over and over again, see if he answers it the same way, see if the truth that he tells is the same every single time.
Yes.
See if this is really who it is.
And she says to him...
But, how would the AI get this information to begin with, right?
They're mapping his mind or something?
Yeah, they're mapping his mind, but, that we learn that human memory is unreliable, which is why Dolores is the one that has to rebuild Arnold, right? I mean, because human memory is fallible. You remember things in your perspective in a certain way, to either to your benefit or to your detriment, but it's not, there's this saying, there's your way, there's my way, and then there's the truth, right? There's three sides to every story. So I have a hard time believing that this is the AI getting fidelity for that reason. Yeah. Because the AI wasn't there.
Yeah. And I think it was a real human. Yeah, it's a real human reaction the first time.
Right.
And she says to him, is this real? Are you real? Tell me the truth. Tell me one true thing. And then she looks at him on the edge of the bed and says, if you keep pretending, you're not going to remember who you really are.
Yeah.
And that's the theme. This idea that William is eroding over time. Like, is he just becoming a series of like repeating programs, or is there a core to who he was? Is there a Billy, an authentic human person somewhere inside all of this like darkness that he talks about, and
is
this
it
idea
just
of his
buried
identity
and buried and buried under layers and 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 layers?
I'm gonna break. I'm gonna break. So this is the first time. One of the things that they do is they repeat scenes again and again, and I think that they're trying to show us the fidelity thing from James Delos earlier in the season. The wife is asleep, but you see her in these like flashes. She's asleep. Then she takes the card that he's hidden in the book out of the book. Then she hides it. So you see all these little like they cut in this stuff.
She watches it first. It says like he's type 47B.
But no,
something.
that doesn't happen yet. That doesn't like. So you just see the stuff, and it's building towards the vanishing point. So you're only seeing a couple snatches, like her hand on the book, or his hand putting the thing in the book, the card in the book, her finding it and taking it out. And then we go to a different scene. We go to them talking downstairs about involuntary commitment to the mental institution and how they were conspiring to lock her away. We see the water droplets on the table. William runs upstairs in slow motion. There's the death bath, the suicide, the pills, a very dead body. And then we cut back to William on the tree, and he says, why are we going over all this?
Yeah.
To robot Emily, or perhaps to real Emily?
Yep.
We don't know. And he says, fuck you, right to her.
Yeah.
Cleverly disguised Robert, but nothing's stopping me from getting to the end of this. And she's appalled and says, you think everything is your own tailor-made narrative.
Yep.
And this is where, is this Ford's last game? Is this Ford's last game? Does he design this?
Nothing's going to stop me from getting to the end.
Yeah. And so that's the loop for him.
I'm going to destroy this whole fucking place.
It's Teddy getting to when I finish this one last job. He's got all the hallmarks of an AI, of a host. All of them. He's got the never-ending quest. He has his cornerstone of tragedy.
That's right.
All of the shit is there. It's all there. And he just keeps playing it out. But Emily Bot, or perhaps Emily in real life, pivots on him, grabs his face, yells at him, says, you're being insane, whatever.
Yep. She says, I want the truth.
Yep.
And he says something like,
Mom showed me your info card. She told me everything. The ballerina box. She put it in the ballerina box. I had it. And he starts, the guards come. This is the scene where they, scan his neck and see that he's human, quote
clear.
unquote.
Yep.
And so it's Emily and half a dozen guards. But he's going crazy, and he says, no, Ford, this is, you're not going to stop me. Nothing's going to stop me from getting to the end.
Grabs a machine gun from the guy that scanned him, shoots all the guards.
Yep, shoots all the fucking guards. Yep, let me find the thing. Yep, he shoots all the guards, and he says to her, you know why I know you're fake? I never shared my info card with anyone. And
I
so
never told anyone about it.
Yeah, so he thinks that he hid it in the book, and that was the end of it. Mm-hmm. But by the end of the episode,
we know that that's not true.
How do we know that?
We are led to believe that that's not true because his wife goes over to the book. We see another book flash of her picking up the book. She takes the card out. We see a flash. She puts it on the table on some computer tablet.
It's the repeated memory, but then they give us more information.
More of it, yep.
So they show us the scene, so we recognize that we've seen it before, but then they give us all the context. They show us more of that scene. And in that scene, Man in Black, William, goes up to drunk wife's bedroom that night and confesses to her, but he thinks she's asleep.
Yep.
So he thinks he's just telling her all this stuff, but she's asleep. But she's not. She wakes up.
Yep.
So he goes into the room, he puts his ID card where she can see in her line of sight into the book. Then he sits next to her on the bed. Then he says all this stuff about darkness and how he doesn't feel real.
There was in it in me. There was a stain. You were the only one who could see it. He brings that same monologue back from the beginning.
That's the cornerstone. His final words to his dead wife. This is all the shit he said to her. And then he leaves the room. But we don't leave the room.
Nope.
We see the wife's eyes pop open. She gets up and she goes over to see what the fuck he just put in that book. Yep. And she finds the info card. And so she puts it in the computer. She opens it up. She sees all the rape and murder and violence and blood and gore and drinking. Up
and it's like, state or, composition 43B or something like that. Yeah. It's like occurrence, chance of occurrence is like 0.00072. And then next to it says rare.
Is this what you...
Yeah, it says this.
You saw that on the screen? I didn't. I pay attention to this stuff. I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, it said there's this big little box and it says personality type 437B or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what it is. But then it says 43B or something, and then underneath it's chance, personality chance or found in population percentage. It's 0.00072, and then it said rare. 0.0072 isn't rare. No shit, that's fucking rare. But it just says rare.
This whole scene happens right at the end, sort of almost at the end. It's one of the maybe it's the penultimate scene.
Yeah.
He's riding Man in Black. Is riding his black horse into a wheat field. Yep. He's alone.
This is after he shoots.
This is after he's murdered Emily.
Yep.
which we'll talk about in a second. But like, we're just skipping around. But like, the scene where the wife discovers everything is framed in the scene of him alone on his black horse, riding into the golden field, getting off the horse. He has flashes of Emily as a child, as a woman, the night that mom committed suicide. He puts the gun to his head like Teddy will put the gun to his head in a later scene in the same episode. The wife's voice is saying, tell me the truth, tell me one true thing. Then we flash back to that scene we just described where he puts the thing in the book and she sees him and she says all the stuff. Like, that's the cornerstone image.
That's cornerstone.
But he's remembering it while he's standing in the golden field with the gun to his head. Because he thinks he's just killed his fucking daughter. And he's like, I didn't tell anybody about this card. But now we see how she could have gotten the info card in real life. And it's
she takes the card and puts it in the ballerina box.
After looking at it and seeing all the rapes and murders and all this shit. And then we have a replay of the opening soliloquy, the stain. You know, there's this thing in me, a darkness. It's invisible to everyone, but you could always see it. And he extends it. So it's not just what we heard in the beginning. He, like they've been doing and building sort of out from, you go to the vanishing point, which was him with Ford. And now we're going back the other way and we're getting more information from the vanishing point outward. I was shedding my skin. The darkness is what was underneath. It was mine all along. I decided how much of it to let out. You know, I was kind and generous, at least in this world. I tried to protect you and Emily. But you saw right through it, didn't you? Everything you saw was true. I don't belong in this world. And there's a flash of Dolores, of young William, of him looking at her when he's like, when he realizes that she's been reset.
I belong to another.
I belong to another world. And then he like leaves and the wife pops her eyes open, sees where he put that card. She was pretending to be asleep, goes over and gets it. Man in black throws his gun down, puts up his sleeve, so he's remembering all this stuff, pulls up his sleeve, cuts into his own arm, or is like starting to cut into his own arm. Where are these choices? What were these choices? Were these choices truly mine to begin with? And then Emily is saying, is this real? Are you real? But we fade away before we see any of that stuff. And then we come up with the final scene, which is Dolores and Teddy. And we get the gun to the head, the actual murder, all of these themes. It's like a repetition on one theme over and over again. It was a good episode.
It's a good one. And tomorrow we're gonna watch the next episode.
The finale
of season 2. But man.
We one last thing. Maeve is his favorite.
Maeve is Ford's favorite.
We gotta talk about that scene.
Oh my god!
It warmed my cold, dead heart.
Oh, he says the most beautiful thing. He says, "I gave you a chance." You know, he's like, "I gave you a chance to escape, but you chose to stay and save your child, and I'm doing the same now." Ford is a ghost. He's been put into
He's a virus. He's
not a ghost. He's a computer virus.
All right.
He infected Bernard's brain.
That's right.
He implanted himself into Maeve's brain now.
Yep.
And then he unlocks her core processing, gives her access back to the mesh network as his final dying breath.
But it's so beautifully done, right? Like he kisses her forehead, and so the sort of visual symbolism is wonderful for a nerd like me. I live for that shit. Maeve is the, I think, heart and soul of the series.
Well, I think her story arc just like completely took over Dolores's, right? Like in season 1, you're very much like, all right, I don't really care what this lady's doing with Hector. You know, okay, whatever. They're robbing a bank.
Tertiary.
She's dying. Yeah, right. Dolores is the main plot. We're trying to figure out what's going on there with William. Okay, but now it's like shift.
Total eclipse of Dolores.
Yeah, that's right. Sandy Newton comes out strong.
She's so good. She's so fucking good in this. And so this whole scene between creator and created, the child has become the master or whatever. Ford's reflection does what he does so well in the series. He starts talking about big philosophical things. He talks about fucking Plutarch again. Quote, man is poised midway between the gods and the beasts. Quite a bit has changed since Plutarch's time, though. Like, they come back to this, you know? And he's talking about this third thing, right? Like, you and I talked in the first season about gods and devils. and how Westworld is sort of in between,
yeah.
and that the hosts are humans, right? You see humans as sort of pure evil or creatures of basest needs. They go there to fuck and fight, and that's it. And the tender human moments that we have are contrived. They're contrivances of a cold and distant God that doesn't really give a fuck about the host. The host exists only for
the pleasure of the humans, right?
But they end up being more human, more,
compassionate, more caring, more,
than anything else. And so Ford is telling Maeve and us as the viewer that he wrote a different ending for her. He did write that thing where she go on the train and you leave, and she was supposed to do that those were the codes that, but she has free will.
Yep.
She decided to stay for the love for her daughter that he had coded into her, that had been coded into her. It isn't easy to contemplate letting your children die. You stayed to save your child, he says. And so have I. I tried to chart a path for you to escape, but I should have just opened a door. And he kisses her forehead, and he opens the door.
He opens the mesh network.
Oh God, it's such a moving.
That should have been the ending scene.
How do you think they edit this stuff, right? Like they can't, because it's so many scenes chopped up.
It is. It's a hard job.
But like I understand wanting.
I can't even edit our podcast, right? I mean, like
we do not edit around here. We are not the experts in editing. Yeah, like I understand wanting to end on a cliffhanger, and Teddy threatening to murder Dolores and then committing suicide is a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like that's the
true.
moment, but like the beating heart, the sort of like emotional note, the mystery throughout is Man in Black, Emily, and the wife.
Yeah.
And then the emotional heart is Ford and Maeve.
Yeah.
And then the sort of like
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, the cliffhanger action
yeah.
is Teddy committing suicide because he can't kill Dolores.
That's valid, yeah. And the admittance that they're like in love too, right? I mean, like they're finally, he's like, "I've always loved you," and she says,
"Even if you did make me a monster." Yeah, that was so good. They had and I think the dialogue there is very scripted. You can almost see. You remember that scene where Ford, like they have that love scene. And then the Klieg lights come on and Ford is like on the beach with them. And he's like, this is the new narrative, but you think that they've like escaped or something.
Right.
And so there are notes of that. There are flavors of that in this sort of overblown dialogue that they have with each other at the end.
It's almost forced, yeah.
Yeah, but like, and the super tender touching of the face and the like, I always loved you. Aren't we still in love? All of that sort of flowery language is just, I don't know. It works, I think. And it's so nice. There was one final thing.
Okay.
That hopefully...
That was the one final thing, and now there's one more final thing?
There was, that we didn't get to. What was the one thing that we were supposed to talk about it, but we didn't talk about it? Oh, God. Angels Envy is coming back.
Oh, that's the good stuff, too. Oh, so good.
Well, who knows?
I'm sure in about 5 minutes we'll remember.
The questions for next week are...
Going
into the finale.
Yes.
Is William a robot?
Is William, the Man in Black, a host?
Is he in the Matrix? Is he a host? We already know that there's like hosts that we're going to do the whole thing about like the Forge and people going into like slash in the sky and all that stuff.
Yep.
We know that the Valkyrie is also Dolores at some point.
Yep, she does turn into Dolores at some point.
And that Teddy is also still alive somehow. I don't remember what happens with Maeve.
I don't remember what happens with Maeve.
Or Maeve's daughter. Like, I'm not sure. But as we view the next episode and all of the answers, I will be most interested in what questions persist, what questions remain for us.
For season 3.
How are they even going to do season 3? Where are they going to do season 3?
In the real world,
I mean, it's gonna be
what we think is the real world. The whole thing could be the fucking Matrix, right? I mean, that's your whole theory, is that this whole fucking thing could be the fucking Matrix.
Yep.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be like the one
neckbeards.
and dodge all these bullets.
Yay! Yay! Neo right there.
Neo, Morpheus, what up? Trinity, what up? This was a great fucking movie. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of
Westworld.
Wheneverly.
This drink.
Looks like nothing. Oh, we have to clink after the saying? That's right. No?
That's good. Angles Envy is fucking good as shit, man.
I know, right? Sponsor us. Send us bottles.
Send us
because
some bottles.
We'll drink it and talk about it.
Holy moly.
Good night, everyone.